question was this: why does God value free will so much when he knows that we're just going to mess it all up?
So my answer to that, whoever you are, if you're wondering this, is God values free will because he values humans, not humans.
A human.
I just want.
It happens to be me, though apparently not my family does.
Yeah.
Anyway, God values humans, and a part of being a human is free will. To take away free will is to take away whatever would make you human, is the way I understand it.
Yeah. Well, and it's just part of love. I would say it's the essential part of love is that I get to choose whether I want to love you or not. Like in any relationship, if I am forced to love you, it's not really love. I might be forced into affection, or I might be forced into some kind of obedience to your instructions or something, but it's not really love. Love requires that this is something I am consenting to, I'm wanting to be a part of. And so for, like you said, God creates human beings with free will because he loves us, and he wants us to love him, which also means, the part about messing it up, that I'm assuming what that means is we make bad choices.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That we make bad choices, which in and of itself isn't messing up free will. That's kind of I don't want to say it's a feature, but it's kind of a part of free will. It's
not a bug.
It's not
feature.
a bug. It's a feature. Is that I can make the wrong choice, and of course, real people get hurt, and there are real consequences that are involved in those things. But that's a part of it. God says, "I love you enough. I'm willing to take that side of what we would call the negative consequence of free will." But I think God understands that's a part of it.
I was having this conversation with somebody one time, and I don't know if this is getting way too philosophical.
Please.
I hope I don't get too philosophical here.
Both of us are very interested.
I shall get my monocle.
So, but my thought was, okay, part of the whole free will thing is, because what usually we're asking when we're asking about, why does God give us free will? Why does he just make everything good? And so there's no evil in the world. And my response to them was, I said, if God did that and there was no evil in the world, then you wouldn't even have the wherewithal to question what good is, because you wouldn't have anything to compare it to. If everything were predetermined, all good, nothing ever bad happened to you, then you wouldn't even know the difference.
That's right.
And part of what we need to understand the goodness and love of God is to see the antecedent of that. And once we know what evil is, then I can truly know what good is, which means I can truly know God. That makes sense.
It does make sense, because that really is where this all gets, is that God ultimately wants us to choose relationship and love, not only with him, but with other people. But to choose to love is to have the ability to not choose to love.
Absolutely.
I must have the ability to choose something else.
Love always requires risk.
Yes.
Now, I've said that to friends,
Yes.
in order to love someone or to be loved, there has to be the risk that won't happen, or that rejection will happen, which is the part we don't like. But it is the part that makes love possible and creates it. And so back to the whole point, if free will is so tied to love, we know that God is love. His nature is love. He is love. That's what Scripture tells us. And so he must be tied to, free will must be a part of it, I should say, because if not, then love wouldn't be possible.
Well, and I think
Which then goes to a whole other question that I'll ask that could lead some of you to another question. When he knows we're going to mess up, what if he doesn't know that all of us are going to mess up until we mess up?
that is
Wow.
You can send that question in next week. I think that's a good point. We get a whole different.
That's just a whole other little thing out of there.
Thanks, Ed.
But I do think on the other side of this, whoever asked this question, often these questions come about in the midst of someone who is either currently hurt by something, or they themselves maybe have done something that has hurt and they're regretting those things. And I think it's important to say in all that is that God doesn't want those things to happen. Like God, even though God knows that this is a part of free will and he loves that, God ultimately is a loving father, just like all of us are fathers. And I would always prefer that my children make the right choices every time and that they do everything the right time. But I know it's a part of my relationship with them that I don't get to control them. That there are consequences that are set up for the bad behavior if it happens, but I'm never like standing there going, oh, I want this to happen and I want them to have this, but I just know that's a part of it. And so if you're in that situation where you're really hurt and that's why you're dealing with a lot of the consequences of that, know that it's never God's intention that any of us be harmed or have that kind of suffering, but it is a part of the free will because ultimately he does love us.
Yes.
And he knows that free will is what's best for us.
I often tell people that these answers are never emotionally satisfying.
Of
So
course
if you're
not.
looking for an emotionally satisfying answer, you're probably not going to find it. You're not going to find it. I'll just say that. You're not
Yeah.
going to find it because although the things we're saying are true, they don't often fix the problem of the hurt that we go through.
That's right.
And that solution is, found in the cross and ultimately
Yes.
the redemption that's coming. And so we lean into that. But this whole thing is not an emotionally satisfying
No, it's
discussion.
not. It's
So,
not.
all right. We good on that one? Got anything else to say on that?
That's all I've got
I
to say. I don't know that we're good.
I have more I could say, but not that it would do anything but diesel on.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would just diesel on to
Okay.
what we've already talked about.